Hi guys. Don't mind this literal school behind me. Not a school of fish. I mean, I guess, I don't know. Are people fish? Not really. I don't know. I just say stuff. Is it just me? Isn't that vibrant? Isn't that kind of vibrant? Like, aren't you kind of like, that's how Earth is? Like, that's kind of nice. Like, the sky is like kind of good. Actually, it's better on screen. Like, the camera is hallucinating some clouds right now, because those are barely even there right now. But the camera is like picking up on clouds that are like barely there. I'm not kidding. It's like as if the camera is like hallucinating clouds and then showing them to you. Like, it's kind of nice. It's kind of, I appreciate it. It's fine, I guess. I don't know. Like, are there sort of clouds? Not like what you get to see. Okay. I have no idea. I don't know. It's pretty good though. Like, why is it so vibrant? It looks better on screen than it does in real life. Like, yeah, like the dead ones are here, but like this, I feel like is the focal point, like the fact that there's like very vibrant trees, right? But to look at it in real life, it's like the only noticeable ones are the dead ones. It's kind of weird, a little bit, not really. Yeah, I don't know, it's so funny. I've been paying a lot of attention to the types of thoughts that I have in certain environments, and not just in certain environments, but like any action has thoughts that accompany it, whether you're consciously aware of them or not, right? So it's like, you don't have to be aware that whatever action you're completing means something to you, but it still does. And also your vibration, like the level of like density that you're at, like influences the amount of like weight that action holds in a way. So it's like, while, I don't know, it's been fun to think about, so, and just enlightening to think about, and relieving to think about, because like sometimes in life we can get like annoyed or frustrated at ourselves for being in the space that we're at the level that we're at. It's like, okay, if I've been trying at whatever, like, why am I not better at same thing, right? Or like I don't know. I do. I just say that still. Why do I say that still? I don't know, but it's probably influenced by other factors and not my fault, even though it's still a habit that I can break. Focusing on what can be controlled and understanding why certain things can't be controlled, or why certain things are not a person's own fault, kind of like fixes them and allows them to regain more respect for themselves if they felt like, so people, the general idea is like, if you raise your vibration, you think more positive thoughts, and then your vibration raises, and then everything in your life like becomes easier, essentially, right? So, but that doesn't always work, because then people will blame themselves, like, okay, in my current environment, what if I'm like very negative? Is it actually me that's negative, or is the environment like, is the energy of the environment essentially like choosing my thoughts? It's like, how much of this is my free will and how much of it is not my free will? Because if something's not your free will, it isn't your fault. But if something is your free will, then it can be your fault if it's done incorrectly. Separating those does matter and mean something, because if a person blames themselves for something that they had no control in, they're still holding on to like attachment, I guess. Like, it sounds kind of stupid actually. The only videos I have that do well for my channel are the stupid ones, the dumb ones. Those are the ones that get like so many views where I'm like, I can't even think it's possible that I should not have said that, because it's like, then it's like the dumbest video that like does well, you know? And then it's like the videos where I'm like, maybe something I said there was not completely stupid. Like, those are the ones that just like don't get any views, which is fine. People are gonna choose what they like, I guess. And the algorithm and whatever energy I'm attracting is going to choose itself in a way. So if I wanted to practice what I was just saying in my current environment at the park, I would be aware that the types of thoughts and the way that I feel about myself has less to do with me than it does with my current environment. So I wouldn't say, wow, I'm so negative that I feel this one negative way about myself, or, blaming myself, because my environment has so much influence and impact on me that 10% of it is free will, no matter how much I think I'm choosing. Essentially, that's kind of what I think now. I'm starting to believe 10% of the choices that you make are of your free will, which sounds depressing, and it sounds limiting, and it sounds like it would be pointless to experience your own free will if only 10% of things that you experience, out of all the things that you would have thought were your free will, if only 10% of those are your free will, why experience free will to begin with? And how often do you experience something that's not your free will but you think it is, and then if it doesn't go the way you wanted it to, blame yourself? Or how does that feel to think that you're making choices that are actually influenced by something else, and then find out you were influenced by something else the whole time? And would you compare yourself to other people's choices where only 10% of theirs were of their free will as well, but you both could look at each other, think that the entirety of that person's experience was their own free will, and then so was yours? So then you're like, oh, does that mean this about them is better? Does that mean that about them is better? Does that mean this other thing about them is better or worse or whatever? And it's you can get so in your head trying to calculate all of that, or you could become really unhappy to hold the weight of, so everything that I think is not perfect about myself is my fault, versus you could say, regardless of if it is, I'm still at the point that I'm at, and so having as much compassion for myself for that, and respect for myself for that, regardless of what is my fault of my experience, blame and intentionally guilting yourself or searching for proof that you're not amazing, that's actually really negative and weighing you down for no reason. But if those thoughts naturally come up, it's probably just because of your environment and actually not your fault again. So if your environment is at a lower vibration, you're not responsible for every negative thought that you have, because a lot of those are actually coming from you analyzing your environment and what it means to you. So so another thing that I would then go into talking about would be how people's chakras can become damaged, and then when they do, they can leak energy. And so when that happens, because of that, people can then, it can change the way that their mind works, or that any of their chakras function because of being damaged. So I guess what I would say is that then they can become more aware of a certain aspect of how their mind works, and then they could be more likely to blame themselves for how that aspect of their mind works when it's still not their fault. So right now, if I wanted to analyze my current environment and the aspect, or the aspect of myself that it influences, I would say, in my current environment, no matter how much of myself I'm able to experience and express, it makes me feel like I'm in the position of an outsider, but the outsider of what? Right? That would be the exact energy that I'm experiencing in my current environment. But it's I don't have an attachment to it being me being an outsider of anything specific. So then it's like on your end, it's possible that you could feel that energy and feel like you're on the outside of something, but the outside of what? I don't know. But like, that's kind of how I would expect the experience to be mirrored on your end. Is that because I would feel like I'm the outsider of something, it's like I'm expressing that feeling, and then you would be more likely to feel like the outsider of something. Or, you know, I guess. If you were to feel that energy and then think that it's you, you would think that you're on the outsider, that you're the outsider of something, but that you don't know what you're on the outside of. And that's how I experience my current like moment right now. But the reason why I would say it's not your fault, if you have certain thoughts or ideas or like feelings, sometimes, I mean, obviously you choose who you are, but also certain things are not your fault, because say you were looking at a tree and you see a squirrel in the tree, and that squirrel is going to like represent something to you, right? So it's like, what does a cute squirrel represent to you? You don't have to be consciously aware of it, but your mind is still going to be like, oh, cute squirrel could mirror this one thing about me. Then you watch the squirrel, okay? The squirrel runs down the tree. That also represents something, means something. You don't have to be consciously aware of what it means to you that the squirrel is running down the tree, because it doesn't matter that you're consciously aware of it. It just represents something. It just means something, okay? Whatever a squirrel means to you, whatever running down a tree could possibly mean to you, right? As it runs down the tree, imagine the squirrel just like has a heart attack and dies right there in front of you. Now, it dying also means something to you. It doesn't mean that it has to be like an omen or mean something about the future. It doesn't have to, but you could project something onto it and then believe that. But you also, if it makes you feel a certain way, any type of way that watching that squirrel die, you can't actually prove is your fault. It's just like, what does your environment set you up to then believe or feel, right? Now, another way that I would interpret this is not that the squirrel itself meant something. Say you were thinking about a specific person when you saw the squirrel to begin with, then your mind can bond the idea of the squirrel to that person or that idea that you were already thinking of. You could say like, it's almost as if it's showing me not necessarily something true about what I was already thinking of, but a possible parallel way of looking at what I was currently thinking of. Almost like it's showing me like a parallel dimension, like possible thing that could be going on, right? So, like, I don't know, what's a thing people think about? So you were just like thinking about what you wanted to eat for lunch. You're like, wow, I don't know what I want to eat for lunch. Then you see the squirrel, you watch the squirrel run down the tree, then the squirrel has a heart attack. It's almost like your mind could have bonded a part of the squirrel, like your idea of what the squirrel represented, to what you were currently thinking of, right? Like, what are you gonna eat for lunch? Now your mind is like, it's possible for your mind to combine what the squirrel represented to you as like what it was to you, like now permanently combined with the spaghetti, like, or spaghetti. I said spaghetti. Maybe you wanted to eat spaghetti, okay? That's the idea, right? And then the squirrel runs down the tree, dies. Now suddenly you're like, oh, I was thinking I wanted to eat spaghetti, but now that I'm thinking about the meatballs and the spaghetti, what if those meatballs were just like actually made out of squirrel? And then boom, like new idea is born. Okay, new idea is born to you in your mind by watching the idea of the squirrel and thinking of what you were already thinking of. Yeah. So, because of that, say you were thinking about a petting zoo, and then you go to like pour yourself a glass of water. Now it's like, it's possible for your mind to, like, if you're at a very high vibration, then I would say it's probably very likely that your mind is just like creatively flowing with no negative energy attached to it, combining the idea of the petting zoo you were thinking of with the water you're pouring yourself. It's like, oh, like, wouldn't it be so funny if like the animals were like made out of water, but they're like still shaped as an animal and it just walks around like that, right? Like that would be like at a very high vibration. You're like free to just experience like the idea of what that would feel like or look like to you. Like it would just be like fun, like just interesting, but you wouldn't necessarily be consciously aware of it. You might just feel the energy of what that would feel like to you, okay? Now, hopefully that Taylor Swift song in the background from across the entire park does not end up in the video. Because imagine it gets flagged just for that. Just for something unimportant in the background that doesn't matter at all. Little squirrel running. But yeah. Hopefully that loudly barking dog drowns out the Taylor Swift song. Hopefully the whole video doesn't get taken down from that. Hopefully that dog does its job and keeps barking as loud as possible. You know, hopefully. You know. It would be frustrating if the video gets taken down just for that, when it's like nobody clicked on this video to listen to that, you know? But that's what happens with like ownership in the entertainment industry. No one wants to talk about that. No one wants to talk about that, how like, if you could argue that if there's a song playing in the background but it wasn't the person's choice who like recorded the video, does that not mean you're trying to own like not just something that isn't yours, not just a moment of somebody else's life, but literally just like in this case a video of what I look like would be what Taylor Swift would be trying to own if this video got taken down just because there's like blank space playing in the background that nobody clicked on for that reason, right? It's like how many weird attachments do you have if you're trying to own a moment of someone else's life that you weren't even there for, of someone you don't even know? I don't care if it's just like how the industry is, like how many weird strings attached do you really have if you can try to have strings attached to somebody else's life who you've never met? How many strings are going to be attached to your own life in ways that you've never even thought of? Weird. Weird. So, yeah, so I talked about what would happen if you were basically at a very high vibration and your thoughts combined with the moment in your environment, right? Now, if you're at a very low vibration and you're not leaking energy, then you wouldn't even be aware that your thoughts are combining with your experience. Like, you wouldn't really be aware of that, but you could feel that, like, in your body, or you wouldn't know that there's like an attachment, like you wouldn't know that it's attached, right? Does that make sense? You would just have thoughts that you don't know are caused or influenced by your environment. You would just be having the experience. Like, it's the knowing that they're combined that you wouldn't have experienced in that way. But you would you could feel like it's your fault exclusively if you had a certain experience. Wow, do I have zero like belief that anything I'm saying makes any sense at all. At all. You're gonna have to be able to put some things together. I have absolutely no reason to believe anything I'm saying makes any sense right now. Like, it's all based on my experience, but whether anybody's gonna get it or not, I have absolutely no way of knowing. Like, Like less than ever. Like less than ever, wow. I don't know, I'm like shocked by the amount that I actually have no idea if what I'm saying makes any sense. Like seriously, at all. Not even like a little bit, like not even a little bit. I could not name one thing that I said in this video that definitely makes sense to you. Like maybe you understand all of it. I have no reason to think you don't, but I can't name like one thing I said that I'm confident made any sense to you. At all. I swear, not even a little bit, like not even like 1%, like. But I can't assume that you don't get it. I can't assume you don't, because what's that based on? Nothing. There's not one person who I think would understand. There's like necessarily that I would be completely sure would, besides myself. And yet here I am wasting my breath explaining it. But I don't know. I think it's worth it to try to communicate different ideas that might exist differently for multiple people. Because I think that's when we have things awakened within us, even if they haven't already been awakened yet to that point. Like I feel like that's when we like grow, is when we share ideas. Which might make me sound stupid or might make me sound really smart, I don't know. Yeah, but what I would say is like, I don't know, when you're at a dense vibration, people tend to like blame themselves or think things are like personal or about them like so much, or extremely negative and personal and about them depending on like what vibration they're really at. So, you know, take any experience you're having and just make it way more personal, way more about you, and way more negative at the same time, and then any thoughts and ideas that pop into your head, way more personal, way more about you, way more something that has like any negative type of energy attached to it. You know? Way more focused on it must be your fault if anything's negative in your environment is the lower vibration, but you also have to think of that combined with the way that your environment already is going to mirror and activate your own thoughts and cause you to have new ideas about yourself, about the world, about your environment. So it kind of does like change you. It does. But is it your fault the way that it changed you? And is it necessarily bad the way that it changed you, even if it wasn't a good experience, or even if it was a good experience? Like, what does it all mean? I don't know. Anyway, I have notes for the rest of the video. I had ideas, okay? I had ideas. Not good ideas. I had some like dumb ideas, okay? Maybe not. I don't know. But like I said, all of my dumbest videos are the only ones that like do well anyway, so. I think I actually stayed on topic pretty well though. I think I stayed on topic pretty well. You'll see. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to say is like, imagine from the perspective of an alien who's like analyzing, or not necessarily a human, but like say there's like a planet, okay? There's a species on the planet of like, basically like intellectually like humans or like an evolved race, but not like way more, but like kind of similarly, but like maybe some are more, but not like, you get the point, like not like an amoeba, I don't know, not like whatever, not like a salamander, you know, like, but not like crazy either necessarily, okay? You get the point, you get the point. Okay, imagine it's like that, but you were going to like analyze, okay, I'm gonna take some samples of what the people are like and then judge what I think they are based on that, okay? So basically, like, if you could meet I can't even say the word million, I said a million. Yeah, if you met a chameleon, like, what would that be like? If you could meet a million, I said humans. I really said humans because I decided to not think this through and make it really confusing. That's what I decided to do. Okay? Okay. So, yeah. But I'll just say humans because, like, you get what I mean. But it's not actually humans, but, like, you get what I'm talking about. Okay? So, you can meet a million humans, and you can either remember 100,000 for smelling bad, you could remember 1,000 for levitation, or you could remember 1 for the ability to spawn animals in their mind and then create fire on command. Okay? You could remember the 100,000 because of their large number. So you could be like, oh, like most of them are probably like that because 100,000 of them were like that, like smelling bad. Or you could say, you could remember 1,000 because you could have been one of them if you were a human. So it's like if you're remembering them for levitation, right? You're looking at these people and saying, okay, so what are some of the best to where it could have been like foreseeable or achievable that like I could have tried to be in that group. So it's like sometimes I feel like if you wanted to look at like a group of something, you're not gonna look at like the most rare possible and be like, that's definitely like what I would have been, but you would look at like what's like a very rare category that like still kind of a lot exists within, right? Because 1,000 is like not a small number. That doesn't make any sense. What I'm saying doesn't make any sense. But like somebody could have looked at that and been like, okay, so like if I were of this race, like what if I would have been of the 1,000? Like they made a big impression because like, wow, 1,000 of you can like levitate or something, right? Or you could have remembered the 1 because maybe all the rest lied to you and only that 1 showed you what they could actually do, but it's actually just something that everybody in their species could do, which would be like create animals and also create fire like on demand, okay? So basically, like what you choose to take from the experience becomes what you are. It's essentially like the idea of that. Because you can't actually prove that they all couldn't do what the 1 could do because as far as you know, they all lied to you. So it's kind of like, are you going to decide that the 1 with some incredible ability was like the only one that could ever exist in this species with this 1 ability, or are you going to assume that everybody had that ability secretly but they all lied to you, or like they hadn't unlocked it yet, or they knew they could but like they just didn't tell you? Because like you decide who you are based on what you remember and take away from the experience, not what the experience itself did to you or like creates to you or whatever. Like weird word choice, whatever. Okay, so that's all for like that one idea kind of, but then I had other ideas. So another idea I had was when people sense energy, the first thought or instinct that they have is that what they experience is themselves, emphasis on it being themselves, versus the possible future timeline. So it's like, if somebody were to walk into a part of the world where the majority thinks that they're very stupid, okay, then the person perceiving that might feel the energy of somebody in this environment thinks that they're stupid. Oh, it must be me. It must just be that I'm stupid, or I'm like way dumber than the people I'm talking to, when the people you're talking to might have actually been the ones who thought of themselves that way to begin with, so much that then as you like interact with them, you internalize the idea that if there's one person here that's stupid, it must have been you. That kind of doesn't make sense, but it does. It does. Kind of. To me, it does. They believe that they feel what they are, But I do think that's partially true, but it can be generalized or simplified as not being true at all, because, like, for the sake of, like, compartmentalizing, you could just say it's not true at all. But while what you're feeling is your environment and the people around you, and their own choices as well, because you're not really going to waste time feeling what you are yourself when you're not by yourself, unless you're actually feeling your future timeline of who you would be if you stayed around these people. Which is why I would say, like, it could be generalized as not being true at all for the sake of, like, compartmentalizing whether you should or should not be in an environment. But if you really looked at it deeper, it's like you're also feeling who you would be in the future if you stayed in that environment. I don't know. Okay, separate from all of that, I had another idea. I was like, why do I spell things wrong? I do this thing where if a word ends with an E, I've been just leaving the E off. I've been just leaving it off and not knowing and not noticing. I've been not noticing. Okay, does the universe match our interest with the same type of equal interest? Or a complementary interest? Or the opposing interest? Does the universe ignore us entirely? Does the universe have the capacity to sense our interest? If it could, would it care? And is it possible to exist within the universe without its knowledge? If this is possible, is it possible that we're awaiting the eventual crown chakra opening of the universe itself, where it will finally realize that we exist equally and have a mind as well? But then, you know how people kind of say, like, God and the universe are the same thing, even though that's, like, not something that makes sense, but people say it? Maybe it makes sense to you. I'm not saying you can't have the idea. I just don't think that. I kind of see, like, gods and the universe as just, like, not always the same thing. Not always the same thing. I don't know. But whatever. I just kind of see it differently. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe you see it the same way. So, yeah, is it possible that if people were to see it that way, that they're waiting for the crown chakra awakening of God? Or is it possible that the universe itself has chakras that can be opened or whatever? Anyway, that's kind of it for that part. I don't know. I just had, like, random ideas, guys. Like, if it wasn't stupid, then this video is not going to do well. But if it's really stupid, this video might, like, do well for my channel. Because things can only do well if they're, like, really stupid. So, the dumber the better, you know? Like, I don't know. I really do have, like, patterns of things that I just say that don't mean anything. Wow, I'm probably really annoying to listen to. Or that dog behind me is really annoying to listen to. I don't know. I don't know which one of us. I don't know which one. I love you guys. That's really all I have for the video. I love you. Bye. You want to see where you were resting on? I love you. Bye.